Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anthony Tao. Welcome to the Bookworm. It's so good to see so many of you come out for poetry. Usually, this space gets filled up for fiction book talks. Actually, who are we kidding? Non-fiction and journalism panels. But poetry is taking center stage tonight, as it rightfully should. I know a lot of you are probably here to see Tracy, and I feel like I should take this moment to especially thank her for basically allowing us to leverage the office of the Poet Laureate of the United States to promote poetry halfway across the globe in this humble, small, independent bookshop in the heart of Beijing. What a world and what an occasion. Thank you and welcome. She is joined by some other wonderful poets. We have, all the way from Mexico, award-winning poet, translator, editor, Mario Bojorquez. We have, from not as far away, although Songzhuang Art Village can seem remote to a lot of us, Yi. And this event really was made possible thanks to Mindy, who is a longtime friend of the Bookworm, although we haven't seen you in a few years now. 2 years. But you are always welcome. All the way from Los Angeles, Mindy. We'll hear from all of them later tonight, but first I wanted to introduce a couple of community poets. There's going to be 3, but Matthew Byrne couldn't make it tonight. As I think a lot of you know, the poetry scene in Beijing is vibrant. It exists, first of all. It's very diverse, and I think it's really unique. And it is growing. Both the Chinese poetry scene and the English poetry scene. I know that the two don't get together as often as maybe they should, but actually maybe we could change that. And I wanted to introduce a couple people who have really been instrumental in making the scene what it is. First up, I would like to introduce to you Simon Shieh, there he is, whose own poetry has appeared in journals such as Grist, Kartika Literary Review, Aztec Literary Review, Calamity, among others. He is the writer-in-residence at the International School of Beijing and the editor-in-chief of the Beijing Youth Literary Review, as well as Spittoon Literary Magazine. Simon.
Thank you, Anthony. What an honor to have Tracy in Beijing. I'm so excited. When I heard the news, I couldn't believe it. But it's so great to have a poet laureate here. It's so great to have another poet come to Beijing. So I'll talk a little bit about the kind of poetry scene as far as I see it in Beijing. I'll try to keep it short. So I work with 2 organizations, 2 literary organizations. One is Spittoon, and Matt Byrne, who couldn't be here today, is the founder of the Spittoon Collective, and I run the Spittoon Literary Magazine. So we hold events, we hold readings, workshops. Recently we did a small literary festival here at the Bookworm, and we're going to bring that down to Chengdu and Suzhou and do literary, both kind of traditional and kind of non-conventional literary events, some that are mixed with music here in Beijing. So the other organization I work with is called Inkbeat Arts, and we publish the Beijing Youth Literary Review, and both of those magazines, I should say, are for sale at the Bookworm. So Inkbeat Arts works mostly with students, but it also works with teachers to promote artistic expression in the schools and to really build a community of young artists and writers that transcend school boundaries and gives young people a platform to express themselves artistically, and that's been a very gratifying, fulfilling job for me. And I found out a lot about my own art, about poetry, about writing, through working with young people, and that's been just really amazing. So yeah, Beijing's art scene, or literature scene and art scene is really alive and vibrant, and I'm really happy to be part of it. So I'm going to read a poem today. Actually, speaking of poetry and poetry and literature communities, I'm going to read a poem that was kind of inspired by my being in a literary community. And I think we should always keep in mind that these communities are not, they're beautiful, but they're not totally, what's the word I'm looking for? Immune to problems of their own. And poets, I think, are people too, and you really discover that when you spend a lot of time with poets, as I guess I've done. I'm sure all the poets in here are wonderful people, but the poem I'm going to read is kind of thinking about an experience, I guess bearing witness to an experience that that was a little different. And this, I think, is really part of what poetry can do, going back to what I do with students for young people. The poetry of witness, which comes from Carolyn Forchet, that idea of witnessing and bearing witness is so important for young people especially, who witness things every day that they don't really understand and they can't make sense of. So that's what this poem's thinking about. This poem is called Little Snow. I will try not to say too much. There was a man so fat you could draw every province he'd ever drank red wine in on his stomach. He'd been to Argentina. He'd feasted on the beef of the gods. But look, I've done it. I've filled my mouth with so many words I can no longer taste them. I was sitting next to the slender man who whispered things into the fat man's ear. I was trying to eat a frog with 2 sticks. Southern China was tiptoeing through a warm autumn, leaves unfazed. There was, of course, red wine. At times the fat man would open his mouth to say something and everyone would empty the hand they used to raise their glass. I will not say that I despise this man. There was also lamb being ripped dead off sticks by large teeth. The teeth were those of poets. No one has ever said poets are people too without a dead body to stand over. I placed the glass into my mouth. I must not say too much. The slender man poured the fat man a taste of wine and then gripped the bottle to his chest. I had never seen the inside of a great poet's mouth before, the tongue so raw yet unafraid. Here the Yangtze River squirms out of its muddy clothes, the weight of dynasties, fat as an upper lip that everyone calls stiff. I'm eating my second bowl of fried rice because the alcohol is turning into something angry in my stomach. The fat man is interested in no one but the only woman at the table. She drinks only in the company of esteemed writers. Her name is Little Snow. Her dress is pink as the cheeks of a girl who has been caught writing poetry. Little Snow is being reminded that this is an occasion for revelry. Little Snow is being told to drink, but she is not being told what to say. I'm trying not to say too much. I am a poet too, after all. The fat man is whispering something important to Little Snow. Her face is made of wax. The fat man touches her arm. Her arm melts. The slender man raises his glass, and we stand to drink. Little Snow does not stand, but drinks. Little Snow has probably never put both of her forearms on the dinner table before. The teeth of the poets are bleeding blocks of liver into soup. There are eggs on the table that are older than I. Little Snow is older than I. Women have a story that begins with an age. I know this. I don't know Little Snow's age. The waitress's hands are large enough to hold a lamb down by the back of its neck as she straddles its back. Women have a story that ends with a fraction. A fraction is a whole number that cannot tell you what it is without telling you what fractures it. I didn't hear the fire die under the hot pot. I heard none of what the fat man said to Little Snow, but I could see his lips peeling the skin from a poem. Women have a story that is never told in China. China is a country with over 5,000 years of history. I cannot tell you what Little Snow was staring at as the fat man asked for the check, but I can tell you that some people believe history could not have been otherwise. As we stood up to leave, a fat hand pulled Little Snow around the table, her high heels steady as knife points. Like a flock of birds, we kicked the bones to the parking lot and lit cigarettes. The fat man's car door cut little snow in half before it closed. We stood there talking about history as his car left, how it clouds everything we see until we see it. The smoke billowing from our lips, every word on fire. So I'll just finish by saying that I have 2 QR codes here, and I'm not really sure how this works. I guess you could probably, so these QR codes link to the 2 organizations I was referring to, Inkbeat Arts for the kids and Spittoon for the adults. And I guess you can come later and scan them if you want to know more about what I do with those 2 organizations and what a lot of actually people in here do with us as well. But anyway, thank you for listening, and please enjoy the rest of the night.
I don't usually wear sunglasses indoors, but these are a special pair. They were made by Andrew Sherman. He works with a company, well, he founded a company called Education Insight. And they're great because every pair of sunglasses that you buy goes to benefit a kid in rural Yunnan who needs eyeglasses. And you might think it's, how big a deal is it? It's actually a big issue. So this is great. EIS.vision, if you want to check it out later. Next, I'm going to bring up to stage someone who does not need shades to look cool. She is the author of 2 chapbooks, The Period of Warring States and Zombia. She is the co-founder of Transmigrant Flow and the Asia coordinator of the Visible Poetry Project. Kassy Lee.
Thank you, Anthony, for the introduction. Thank you all for being here. It's so great to see so many people out here for a poetry event, and I think that's in large part due to Tracy K. Smith, who's been a personal idol of mine for many years, and I'm so excited she's going to share her work with the Beijing community tonight. I'd like, again, to talk a bit about the Beijing literary community. So, like Anthony was saying, I'm the co-founder of Transmigrant Flow, and we're an art collective that organizes transnational focused events. So coming up, we have a feminist photo essay event at the end of October. So if you're interested in attending that, let me know and we can scan the QR code as well. Lots of QR codes. Great, so I'm going to read 2 poems today. Sorry. All right. So the first one is called Master of Beijing. His body formed a lonesome amen as he emptied himself in a bored and jaded girl he met at a massage parlor. She'd just come from Shikong village with plans to become a nail technician. The census files this under household services, etc. I met him in a Starbucks near the Workers' Stadium before I knew how the curve of his back would pound a question mark into said girl from the countryside. I told him how a glass of water envies the rain, and he told me how his mother was afraid to drive him to his cousin's house in Wash Heights because his mother was white and his cousin still lived in the barrio. I should have known when he thought the word shifu meant massage, when really it means something closer to master. In bed, our bodies would form a drawn ellipsis that bore repeating, and the sweat of his chest would dry sticky to my ear. There, his heart thrashed like the fish in the overcrowded tanks at the fishmongers in Xianwanli Market. He had no role model, but neither does the pine tree, floating, gutted balloon. All I have now is the blueness of the sky wrapped in itself. Okay, the second poem is called Every 28 Hours, a New Name for Bloodred. Claret maybe, a simple Kool-Aid rude hue. Inside, the body of someone who hates me. Outside, a tree muscles out its raw fruits. The gentle arc of the moon laps up the blood, a puddle of which is subject to the same forces as the tidal ebb and flow. The bay window chafes my outer thigh as we make love. The goldfish knows. He doesn't grow jealous. I was charmed by sweet kernels of corn between your gapped tooth, the boy with the Dead Sea cosmetic booths, the ripples of a wound. Even if you believe that the horizon is a snake with its tail on its own tongue, a kid on my Chrome browser will still be dead. You'll go on trying to overanalyze my texts. I'll go on with my cell phone camera, recording my nephew killing roaches with Raid in order to play it back in reverse. Death happens only once, and then all is rewound. God can make a rusty, revolving chamber like your heart. God can make a military-grade tank on a sunflower-hugged highway. That's within his means. God can make pies as wide as July, a silver token for the misappreciation of your body. He can do whatever he likes except prove that all of us are made in his image. For some reason, he can't do the math on that one. It's just that, well, every cloud has a brutal body bag lining. When we are abstract, we can be so beautiful, but we are concrete, we are gray, draped by the bodies of teenagers killed on their way to their grandma's house, killed while thinking, will there be any cute girls in technical college? Just some city girls with their tight coils in the dead air of the day room. Thank you guys.
Okay, I have a poem. It is called That Absent Person. It's written from the voice of a woman, and the title comes from a letter that she wrote to an American friend. The first and final lines of the poem are her words, and this is for the one still not free. That absent person. I don't keep track of the days anymore. For years I spoke in the hours before sleep, and in dream awaited reply. Spirit, windows to open, days turning to years. I think of ancient poets banished to their frontiers, and know death is not final, but what a road to get there. Behind closed walls and closed doors, I listen to birds I cannot see. I think on words not said, and those moments leaving you when I'd forget the thinness of our remarks. How I meant to say I was manic the other morning, craving drink, which I know you hate. And the skin of boiled milk, do you remember how it tastes? So much of what we are has been defined by not, yet still I am not your vassal. I am a meanderer seeking the world's soul, not its wounds, as you now are. Do not be sorry. Folklore will know its history, dusk, seed to sun, as I shout, let us go somewhere in the light. Sorrow, longing, a verse analog of joy, madness, waiting. I once said you were the best, but the truth is you were too political, even in the grace you showed your captors, too willing to give up body as vessel and message, waiting like Wei Sheng who drowned under a bridge, waiting for his love. It is a great sadness to be loved. It is a great burden to choose love. I have carried your absence across nights and vast distances, set it in front of us like a child, as we marveled across plastic dividers. I long because I long. Can you understand? I worry because I worry. I wait because what they have taken is not what I would give. Flatten, confine this body, but this choice remains mine. This life, this tree, this bolt, lightening the black horizon, they have not ceased to amaze with fire and with the possible. And now that you are close again, that our mugs touch, the years have turned back into hours as we await our ashes to embrace. We are living in the Sweden of our love, my dear, in the cool fear of aftershock, expectant for tremors, the skin of the other, until we are cold, with a cold out of marrow, the cold heat of fever to burn, to salvage. I love you, I miss you. Next, I want to bring up an author of 6 books of poetry in Chinese and 4 literary translations. She is the co-founder, among the poets that she's translated into Chinese include Marianne Moore and Anne Carson, among many others. And she's also translated Chinese into English as well. She is the co-founder of the literary journal Poetry East-West and the China editor of the Rotterdam, the Rotterdam Poetry Festival. We have her to thank for this event, really. So let's give a warm round of applause for Ming.
Thank you so much, Tao Yixing. I call him Tao Yixing. Thank you for your poem. Very touched. Thank you, Tracy, for being here. We are so honored to share the stage with you, and thank you, Mario, for coming here all the way from Mexico. Oh, this is how do I adjust this? I'm not that full. Okay. Okay, thank you. Anyway, I'm Chinese. I was born and I grew up on the Yangtze River. I moved to Beijing, spent 2 years here. I went to Boston. For graduate studies, I went to Boston College and Boston University for linguistics, and then settled down in California. So from here, between here and there, from here to there, and from there to here. For a while, you didn't have a passport, and you lived in the mountains, grew vegetables with the seeds you had brought from your home country. Your favorite kind was the small, dark green bok choy, so small that you couldn't find it in any supermarket here. The taste was so pure, though it took you hours to wash the mud. Free of the mud from the fields. For a while, you didn't even have sexuality. You put on hats of any type, sunglasses of any shades. You went to swing clubs and calmly sipped tea and watched the antics of strangers. When you saw a countryman with hair dyed blonde, you walked out disgusted. You didn't eat for 3 days. Then you forgot all about it. For a while, you went blind, but was able to see even better. Your eyes like torches and your feet flew down the street. Later, you got a blue passport, and you could go anywhere on earth. But everywhere you go, you look for Chinese food. Water spinach, silk squash, bitter melon, and the leeks. Hey, this is Los Angeles. They don't grow here. Meat in any land tastes the same. Only vegetables have personalities. You miss homeland, so you look for childhood dishes. But you don't want to return to the Yangtze River. Your Ithakas is always on the other shore, always before you, even if you cross the river. So you learn to appreciate papaya, squash, figs, blueberries, strawberries. At night, you sit in the wild mountains and look at the constellations where no passport is needed. You pick up stars at your well and cut them into bits or slices and make a cold salad. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for coming here tonight to share the poetry. And the last one is Looking for Maya. Once upon a time, there was a huge cloud. Father waved his hand and cut the cloud into sky and earth. Once upon earth, there was just dust. Mother shaped the dust into humans. Let there be light, and there came the light. Let there be words, there came the words of flowers and stones. Once upon a flower, a fish came out, flying between the sky and earth. Once upon a fish, a sun came out. Another sun, another sun, another sun. The stones turned into animals that couldn't bear the heat of the suns. Father kicked out the sun like kicking footballs, leaving one in the sky to tell the stories. Once upon a story, Sister Maya and I carved the picture words on rocks, bamboos, silk, and made string words with cotton and silk. She liked to draw teeth in the flowers and the feet for the fish and the birds. All the creatures had wings flying, but she wanted them to stay on earth. Then came an earthquake that split land into continents and islands. I saw her drift away further and further until there was an ocean between us. Years and years have drifted away, but the words that we share made me immortal. I go to Japan and see many similar words, but she's not there. I go to Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, and Hawaii, and all the islands in the Pacific Ocean, and see many traces until I land on East Island. And from there, I reach Chile and Peru. I leave streams for her to find me. I move north, and finally in Guatemala and Mexico, I see her descendants in caves and slums. They have lost her words, the words of flowers and birds. They write in Roman alphabet. They talk about the poetry as if studied in Spain. They ignore their own oral history and ancient writing. Sister Maya is dead. Half of me is dead. Shut up. A voice from Caribbean says, tell your own story. Yes, sir, this is my own story. I am Mayan, Sumerian, Chinese, Taiwanese, Zulu, Innu, Sami, Cherokee, Egyptian, St. Lucian. I am either nobody, or I'm bird, fish, sky, ocean, wind, cloud, rain, rainbow, all in one body.
Hello, I am Guillermo, just a friend of Anthony. He asked me to introduce Mario because he has some problems to pronounce in Spanish. No, but, yeah. So Mario Bojorquez, before I used to say Bojorquez, but I don't know why. And he's a poet from Mexico. Mexico, we say he is a country from poets because the first big poet from Latin America is Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz from Mexico. Then they have Octavio Paz, and then Rulfo, which was not was a kind of a poet, no, because the important was the music and the rhyme of the prose. So he's from Mexico. He's very well known from his poems, his books, but also for his. He is founder of the Círculo de Poesía, which in South America is very important. They do publishing. They have the internet site. They organize meetings, and here I have some of his book. Aquí todo de memoria, or this I think was published in Argentina. This one, and then he is also a very good publisher, and he is in charge of the publishing of Ming in Spanish. This and this. So he's doing a very good job publishing and writing in South America. He is famous for example, in South America, we always complain that the poets from Argentina never go to Chile or never get published in the other countries. But once, like 15 years ago, I found a book of Mario in Buenos Aires. That is very difficult in our countries. So he's a very well-known poet and a very good. I hope you will enjoy.
Thank you, Guillermo. Thank you, Bookworm, for this occasion, and thank you for your presence in this night. I asked to my friend Santiago from Colombia to help me to read some poems I read in Spanish, and Santiago for a better pronunciation, making in English. Thank you. It's a battery of short poems from this book, Speak Shadows. Because Porcelain say in a moment, waar spricht wer Schatten spricht. Verdad habla quien sombras habla. Speak shadow is the truth. Ojo del tiempo. En mi mano arde la moneda del tiempo. Círculo de metal sin efigie. Arde lo que no sé de mí, lo que nadie sospecha. Rodando la moneda llega a tus pies cansados. La tomas y sonríes con descuido. No es un sueño para ti todo esto. Tomas la moneda y piensas en mi pelo, en mis ojos. Adentro de mis ojos alguien miente, alguien come mi corazón adentro.
The eye of time. The coin of time burns in my hand, a metal circle without a face. It burns all that I ignore of myself, all that no one suspects of me. The coin rolls down, reaches your tired feet. You take it and smile artlessly. It's not a dream for you, all this. You grab the coin and think of my hair, of my eyes. Someone's telling a lie inside my eyes. Someone hurts my heart within.
La piedra más alta. Fui contando las piedras del camino, una por una, todas. La piedra más alta era la nube de tu sueño, el hueco de tu sueño. Yo lo supe y fui contando las veces que el amor nos abrió las puertas del destino.
The highest stone. I went along the road counting its stones, one by one, all of them. The highest stone was the cloud of your dream, the hollow of your dream. I knew it, and I went on counting the times that love unlocked the gates of fate for us.
Himeneo, te veo alrededor de un fuego muy antiguo, vestida de infatigable luz y sonriente. Estás bailando las primeras renuncias, la danza terrible y el hechizo, irka, irse, nasasas, trilliribus. Alzo mi mano y mis palabras sobre el desierto mundo insobornable. Elevaré tu nombre hasta la angustia.
Amen. I see you surrounded by a very ancient fire, dressed up in the tireless light and smiling. You're dancing the first denials, the terrible dance and spell. Irka, irse, nasasas, trillirigos. I raise my hand and my voice over a bare, incorruptible world. I'll take your name to the point of anguish.
Decir la sombra. Hablar desde la sombra, ser la sombra, el fluido veloz donde el oscuro se crece ya sin cuerpo, dominado. Hablar contra la sombra de lo dicho, volver desde la sombra del desvelo, subir tan alto, tan hondo, tan sin tiempo, que un regreso feroz no sea preciso. Decir la sombra, decir lo que nos queda, el resto de la voz y del suspiro, la sombra temeraria sin acento, sin pausa ni emoción, la pura sombra que engendrará más sombras a su paso. Hablar, decir, hablar, la sombra es acercarse a las cosas, a sus cuerpos, ser reflexión constante, ser reflejo de un lenguaje virtual que nunca es cierto.
To say the shadow, to speak from the shadows, be the shadow, the fast flux where darkness grows without body, subjugated, to speak against the shadow of what we've said, come back from the shadow of wakefulness, go so high, so deep, timeless, that a fierce return won't be needed, to say the shadow, to say what we've left, the remains of voice and sighs, the reckless shadow with no accent, no pause, emotionless, pure shadow that will beget more shadows on its way. To speak, say, speak the shadow means to get close to things, their bodies, be a constant reflection, a mirror of a virtual language which is never true.
Thank you. And the last poem is an epitaph for Paul Celan, and the translation of these poems is from a good poet from Mexico. The name is Mario Licón Cabrera, and Mario lives in Sydney in Australia, and this book appeared this year, and maybe in March, for Vagabond Press. In Amazon is on sale. No. Ok, epitafio para Paul Celan. Hay una flor en mitad del campo. Es la flor de los días hermosos. Los hombres cavan alrededor buscando la raíz de la belleza. Cavan en la tierra profundo. Bajo la tierra removida viven los gusanos de la lluvia.
Epitaph for Paul Celan. There's a flower in the middle of the field. It's the flower of the awesome days. The men dig around, searching for beauty's root. They dig deep into the ground. Below the dug soil live the worms of rain.
Thank you.
My turn to introduce Ilay. Before that, I left some books around that area, a bag. I want to share with you. It's up. I'm so happy that Ilay is joining us today. I've been doing translation workshops at different universities in Beijing. We always have a free day, either before or afterwards. This time is before. So we've been here twice before doing readings. I thought it's like extra experience for the international poets. Last year we had Dutch poet Laureate. We didn't do any reading. We went up to the Great Wall. So we read in the rain on the Great Wall. So that was good too. And Mario wanted to go to the Great Wall this time, but it's raining. And Tracy has been to the Great Wall already, so we didn't go. But anyway, and anyway, I don't have a code or anything, but we have this cross borders poets translating each other. So it's like some of the results from the translation workshop. And each year we have new faces from other countries, all over the world, more from America. And we're so happy that Tracy is even willing to come when she's poet laureate, so we're so grateful. And the purpose of the translation workshop is to have Chinese poets and international poets translate each other. And I've asked Tao Yixin to join us so many times. She said, oh, my Chinese isn't, But anyway, but Sammy's coming this time, and he's bilingual. So for the Chinese part, we bring different poets to the program so they have exposure to the international poets and their poems get translated. But Yilei is very lucky. Tracy has been translating Yilei for almost 2 years. And Yilei's selected poems by Yilei, translated by Tracy and Bi Changtai, sitting somewhere, will be published in 2 years by Grey Wolf Press, which also published a book by the main character that Tao Yixin's poem was about. I was really touched by your poem. Thank you so much. Google that. The poet who is not free. But anyway, Yilei is a poet that I really admire. She was well known in the 80s for her brave poetry, talking about a single woman. Come to my room, and she has published 8 books. It's mostly about the women, and the unique thing about her is that there are many things about women that Chinese poets. It's very common in Western countries, but in China, it's a topic that even women poets don't write about, and I've never, written anything about being a woman. So I admire her for her courage and for her willingness, openness to open herself up for criticism, and she was not afraid. But anyway, she was actually praised for being so brave. And then for so many years, she's been away from the poetry scene. She went to Russia. She spent many years in Russia, and then she's an artist. She paints beautiful paintings, and she has done so many different types of work. And I think it's her own choice, like the other poets. It's her own choice to be away from the mainstream, to be independent. She's, in my mind, she's truly an independent poet. So I'm so happy that her poetry is being translated by Tracy. And just Google her name, Yilei, and some poems have been published. They're beautiful poems, and the way the poem from a Chinese poem into English, the process is very interesting. So we'll go into details tomorrow. That's the workshop. And the final reading is on the 12th at the Beijing Union University, 10 o'clock a.m. If anyone is interested, maybe we can put the location on the website. Website or something. Anyway, thank you so much. Welcome, Yilei.
晚上大概我是唯一可以用中文来说话和朗诵的人，我非常的，我非常的惊奇，因为我参加这样的活动是比较少，每次活动都是双语的嘛，然后今天我就是只能听懂了他对我的介绍，其他的都不行，我呢是这个这个汉世界和这个诗日报的这个名誉主编，所以呢，我带来了2份这个东西给大家看，诗日报 Poets Newspaper, and this is
Chinese poetry circle, so she's the editor-in-chief, and she's very modest. She said she's just, in the name only. It's a newspaper that was published in the 1980s, and then it stopped in 1989, and it's resumed this past June, and it happened to be in the same month that Tracy was named poet laureate. And so she was saying in the beginning that she is the only poet speaking Chinese tonight, and she understood, the only thing she understood was the introduction of her. And she speaks Russian very well. We have Julia sitting somewhere from Russia. And anyway, and this magazine is new. So this is issue 2 and issue 1. So this is the continuation of the old newspaper from the 80s, and this is a new magazine.
这是26年，这是26年前，在1989年那个大家都很清楚的那个时候的一个报纸，26年中断的。那么现在呢，第1期刚刚复刊，然后Tracy呢正好在4月份就是空降到大陆，从台湾讲学到这儿来，跟我们几个人相遇，所以呢我们特别荣幸的在复刊的第1期。他就成为我们的这个封面人物。这边介绍了4月份他来到中国的活动情况，我们的访谈，还有他在中国新写的几首诗，这里面有，这里面也有。
I'll do literally. It's a newspaper from 1989. As you all know, why it was stopped. Anyway, it's reopened again. It's Tracy was here in April. It's like a goddess, from the heaven to her. And they met in person finally. So this newspaper had her photos, her new poems about her trip to China, both in the newspaper and in the magazine.
这个今天我们特别高兴的能和这个Tracy第2次，这个有一个这么好的一个活动。这么多爱诗的朋友来到这儿，真是这么多年来也是今天也是特别的感动，也感谢这个鸣笛啊，就是那个他没有他我们不能够聚到一起，感谢这个亲爱的Tracy，又一次飞得不远万里飞来，还有这个Mario，我们将有几天的一起的活动。希望大家呢，多多的关注我们中国当代诗歌，关注这个美国的当代的诗歌，也那个关注我们这个报纸和这个杂志。
She's saying that she's been away from the poetry scene for so many years. She's really happy to be here, grateful to everybody, and also Tracy. This is the reunion from the April and now. Thank you again, and thank you, Mario, and thank you for paying attention to the Chinese poetry scene and American poetry.
我看我就不朗诵了吧，90%的人都听不懂。我那个没有准备，就是今天是好像是一个特别意外的一个惊喜的一个活动。那么我就在手机上打开呢，读一小段得了。这是1986年的诗，大家也可以想象，1986年的中国，我们的所谓思想解放刚刚开始，我们的爱情刚刚合法，还有很多的形式不合法，只有一种形式合法，就是你领了证。当时我没有证的时候，我跑到北戴河和我的男朋友都被轰出来，没有一家接待我们，最后我们只好住到了中国作家协会的眼皮子底下，住在他们的招待所里，然后他们就说他们领证了，他们说可能领了，就这样。所以这是一个背景，那么叫情舞。那 Tracy 翻译了我的大部分的诗了，这个呢是登在那个哈佛评论的去年的好像是第49期，这样我读一小段吧。第2段就是禁忌，舞曲落下一片又一片，我的渴望被层层包起，崇拜就是禁忌，我禁忌什么？ 我自己也不知道。我无视一切，却无力推开压顶而来的天空。这一天，我中了巫术，与你赤诚相见的都是假话。我毫不甘心地拒绝了你。当你悄然规避，仿佛陆地在胸前陷落，我的呼叫被回声堵塞，是无形的手铸就了我的错误。为了避免一个可怜的悲剧，我扼杀了灵魂的自由，让我的理智从此漆黑一片。我愿意被你主宰。谢谢大家。
Thank you, Eli. We really should do more Chinese poetry events, actually. Okay, we have one more reader. She is the director of the creative writing program at Princeton University. Her memoir, Ordinary Light, was a finalist for the National Book Award in Nonfiction. She's written 3 books of poetry, and her 4th one, Wade in the Water, is coming out in April, and it's highly anticipated. Her last book of poetry, Life on Mars, which won the Pulitzer Prize, by the way, is a horizon-expanding, brilliant, beautiful book. And I think, like most poetry, it's also a little bit heartbreaking. I remember I read it about 4 years ago, and I knew instantly that there were some lines that were unforgettable, such as the optics jibed and shine, 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 shine. Those words, respectively, by the way, are about the Hubble Space Telescope and David Bowie. So just to give you an idea of her range and her depth. Her writing is so big as to make us seem small, but also so intimate as to make us seem essential. In June, the Librarian of Congress, Carla Hayden, called her a poet of searching, saying, "Her work travels the world and takes on its voices, brings history and memory to life, calls on the power of literature as well as science, religion, and pop culture. With directness and deftness, she contends with the heavens or plumbs our inner depths, all to better understand what makes us more human." What an honor to be introducing her tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, the U.S. poet, laureate, Tracy K. Smith.
I'm so thrilled to be here, and I'm so grateful that so many people have come out, and it was just a delight to hear your voices and get a sense of what the community, the literary community here is like, so thank you. I thought I would start by reading one of my translations of Eli, a poem called Wang Guoshu, Waterfall. Great stones of white water hammer down onto our halting walk in the monument's shade, and our cramped bed at the Vienna villa, and the gloomy breakfast room where no one spoke. Great stones of white water hammer onto the statue of a woman made of moon-white wax, and the thatchy backwater island where we laughed at what I can't remember. Great stones of white water smashing what I didn't ask on the lip of the ancient tomb, and yet, you still refused. Smashing the little apple tree growing happily in sand like a souvenir painting, those red drapes, that weepy guitar, smashing your hesitation on the shore. Oh, great stones of white water hammering down, eviscerate me. My soul won't plant itself in this deep black soil, recoils from eternity like a thief. No, my soul hangs with all that water, thousands of years' worth boiling away up on the edge of that cliff. And of course, that's a version that I couldn't have gotten to without Cheng Tai Bi. I don't know if he's here, but his work has been essential to my work, bringing Yilei's poems into English. So it's been a really exciting process. In fact, I feel like it helped bring me back into poetry because I spent years working on a memoir and not writing very many poems at all. And so coming back into my voice as a poet was something that I was a little bit nervous of doing. And so working through the voice and imagination of Yilei really kind of like opened the door back into that side of myself as a writer. So I'm very grateful. I thought I'd also, so I was here in April, and that was my first visit to China, and I felt so many emotions, and I was surprised at how much felt on some level familiar in a way, not necessarily literally, but like there was something deep that I felt like I could recognize myself within, or that I wanted to. So I'm going to read you the poem that came out of that experience. It's called Eternity. It's written in sections. In some ways, it's kind of like a little touristic log of that trip. Eternity. Landscape painting. It is as if I can almost still remember, as if I once perhaps belonged here. The mountains a deep, heavy green, and the rocky steep drop to the waters below. The peaked roofs, the white plastered brick, a clothesline in a neighbor's yard made of sticks, the stone path skimming the ridge, a ladder asleep against a house. What is the soul allowed to keep? Every birth, every small gift, every ache. I know I have knelt just here, torn apart by loss, lazed on this grass, counting joys like trees, cypress, blue fir, dogwood, cherry, ageless, constant, growing down into earth and up into history. Lama Temple. It was a shock to be allowed in, for once not held back by a painted iron fence, and to take it in with just my eyes. No photos, signs were discreet yet emphatic. Coins, bills on a tray. 2 women and then a man bowed before a statue to pray. Outside, above the gates, a sprung balloon and 3 kites swam east on a high, fast current. And something about a bird flapping hard as it crossed my line of sight. The bliss it seemed to make and ride without ever once gliding or slowing. The picture of it meant suddenly youth, and I couldn't help it. I had to look away. Nan Luo Gushang Alley. I'm so sorry. I know I've mangled a beautiful language. Every chance I get, every face I see, I find myself searching for a glimpse of myself, my daughter, my sons. More often, I find their former students, old lovers, friends I knew once and had until now forgotten. My sisters, a Russian neighbor, a red-haired American actor, and on, uncannily, as though all of us must be buried deep within each other. Songshuang Art Village. You pull canvases from racks, red daisies, peonies in a blue vase, an urn of lilies like spirits flown from the dead. a self-portrait in a white dress, faceless but for one eye, and all around you what could be empty coffins or guitar cases or dark leaves on a swirling sea. On a column in a black frame hangs a photo of your mother, smiling girl in an army coat. Can any of us save ourselves, you once wrote, save another? Below her, all beard practically, and crevassed brow, Tolstoy stares in the direction of what once must have seemed the future. Mu Tianyu Great Wall. Farther ahead, another tourist loses his footing and grabs hold of a brick, which comes off in his hand, crumbles where it lands. I don't even think I need to say anything about this poem. It's called The United States Welcomes You. Why and by whose power were you sent? What do you see that you may wish to steal? Why this dancing? Why do your dark bodies drink up all the light? What are you demanding that we feel? Have you stolen something? Then what is that leaping in your chest? What is the nature of your mission? Do you seek to offer a confession? Have you anything to do with others brought by us to harm? Then why are you afraid? And why do you invade our night, hands raised, eyes wide, mute as ghosts? Is there something you wish to confess? Is this some enigmatic type of test? What if we fail? How and to whom do we address our appeal? A lot of the poems in the new book that is just finished are thinking about compassion and more precisely all the opportunities that we miss to be compassionate toward one another. And so the book is looking at history, particularly American history, but it's also looking at just kind of the quotidian moments in day-to-day life where there's another person that you see and fail to see at the same time. So I'll read you one of those poems. This is called Charity, or maybe this is a poem about a person who reveals yourself to you. Charity. She is like a squat old machine, off kilter but still chugging along the uphill stretch of sidewalk on Harrison Street, handbag slung crosswise, and, I'm guessing, heavy. And oh, the set of her face, her brows profound tracks, her mouth cinched, lips pressed flat. Watching her bend forward to tussle with gravity, watching the birth she allows each foot as if one is not on civil terms with the other, watching her shoulders braced as if lashed by step after step after step, and her eyes' determination not to shift or blink or rise. I think I am you, one day out of 5, tired, empty, hating what I carry, but afraid to lay it down, stingy, angry, doing violence to others by the sheer freight of my gloom, halfway home, wanting to stop, to quit, but keeping going, mostly out of spite. I'll read 2 more poems, I think. Refuge. I went to, so I teach at Princeton, and there was a conference on forced migrations last spring. And this is a poem that I wrote in response to that. Refuge. Until I can understand why you fled, why you are willing to bleed, why you deserve what I must be willing to cede, let me imagine you are my mother in Montgomery, Alabama, walking to campus rather than riding the bus. I know what they call you, what they try to convince you you lack. I know your tired ankles, the sudden thunder of your laugh. Until I want to give you what I myself deserve, let me love you by loving her, your sister in a camp in Turkey, 16, deserving of everything. Let her be my daughter, who has curled her neat hands into fists, insisting nothing is fair and I have never loved her. Naomi, lips set in a scowl, young heart ransacking itself. Let me lend her passion to your sister and love her for her living rage, her need for more and now and all. Let me leap from sleep if her voice sounds out afraid from down the hall. I have seen men like your father walking up Harrison Street now that the days are getting longer. Let me love them as I love my own father, whom I phoned once from a valley in my life to say what I feared I'd never adequately said. Voice choked, stalled, hearing the silence spread around us like weather. What would it cost me to say it now to a stranger's father, walking home to our separate lives together? This is the last poem in the book. It's called An Old Story. And I think after thinking about history and the ways that we're kind of essentially rebuilding replicas of our own mistaken past choices, it felt really useful to me, or hopeful, to kind of shift scales and kind of think upon like a mythic scale. So this is almost a, not an origin story, but something attempting to sit at that kind of distance. An old story. We were made to understand it would be terrible. Every small want, every niggling urge, every hate, swollen to a kind of epic wind, livid the land and ravaged like a rageful dream. The worst in us having taken over and broken the rest utterly down. A long age passed, when at last we knew how little would survive us, how little we had mended or built that was not now lost. Something large and old awoke. And then our singing brought on a different manner of weather. Then animals long believed gone crept down from trees. We took new stock of one another. We wept to be reminded of such color. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us here tonight. Thank you, Rosalind. Thank you, Kemen, for the music at the start. And then Simon and Cassie, Mario, Eli, Mingy, and of course, Tracy K. And also, thank all of you, once again. Thanks for being with us at one of the best bookstores in the world. All right, that's it.